I felt lost and hopeless most of my childhood, and I was waiting for someone to end my life or save me from my reality. So I was always thinking of either dying or being free of all the misery I was going through. And I was waiting for someone to change my reality. As a kid, you should worry about your homework, you should worry about what video games you're gonna play, and you should worry about hanging out with the friends after school or online or whatever the kid's doing, a normal kid that's doing. Well, not if you live in a third world country as a refugee. My biggest dream was to have a normal life as a kid. That's all I wanted, which was impossible to attain from where I was. That's why there's a saying that a happy man has 1,000 wishes and a sad man has only one. The reason why I wanted to die was because I thought that way I wouldn't feel guilty for leaving my family behind. All those years I felt obligated to provide for my family and survive. But deep down, I didn't mind if I died by getting stabbed or in a car crash or somehow on the way to work when I was a kid. I had to change that reality out of frustration and necessity. So this is my life story and how I was able to transform it with the power of shifting reality, which I wasn't aware of years ago. I was born in Iran and my parents were Afghan refugees, which meant I was born with no proper documentation. I wasn't an Iranian or Afghan, and on top of that, I was the middle kid of the family. And if you're the middle kid of the family in Middle East, you're pretty much a disposable part of the family. I had an eventful life growing up as a refugee. I started working from an early age, supplement the family income, and contribute and help the family in any way I could. And that's how you show that you are a good son over there. It's a very common thing over there, but over here they call it child labor. Yeah, child labor. I had lots of bad days and dark nights of the soul, or simply rock bottoms from an early age. I remember the day that I got beat up by everyone, and I mean everyone. So I got beat up by my older brother at the sweatshop factory that we were working on. It was a daily thing. At that point, I got used to it, but I got really beat up pretty bad that day. So I ran away from the factory thinking that if I make it home and complain to my mom, he will not beat me again. Or at least my mom won't let me go to work with him again. But on the way home, I encountered the neighborhood bullies.
I'm in danger!
They start chasing me, so I start running, but they caught up to me eventually, and they give me a really good beating. And I was able to land a few slaps and punches here and there, but I got outnumbered. I got beat up really good. So once they were done beating me up, they got tired and walked away and said they're gonna see me tomorrow, as if it was their daily duty to beat me up. So on the way home, I was in a lot of pain. I saw a friend of mine from school, and he said, "Hey, there's a gaming cafe that opened up near your house. Do you want to go play?" I told him I don't have any money, and he said, "Oh, don't worry, the owner is my uncle." So I thought to myself, you know what? Why not? I just got beat up by my older brother. I just got beat up by the bullies. I might as well play some video games and forget about it, right? No big deal. So we were playing games, and I lost track of time, and it was and as soon as I saw it was getting dark, I sprint out of the gaming cafe, and I headed towards home. So as soon as I got home, I saw my dad waiting for me with a belt. So before I could even explain myself, I got the beating of a lifetime. And the beating I got from my dad was way worse than the beating I got from my older brother and the bullies. So the next day, I went to the bathroom, looking at myself in the mirror. I had bruises on my face and on my bodies, and I was having a little bit of flashbacks from the day before, and I was in a lot of pain. And on that day, I wished and I envisioned that one day I would be so far away from this place, from these people, and I will never ever come back or look back. And that's how the idea of wanting to change my reality was born. The incidents that happened that day, it was a normal day pretty much. It wasn't the worst day or it wasn't the best day of my childhood, but like incidents like that, it was pretty normal for me growing up, to the point that I thought, well, this is just life. Until that day, I was like, that day I really wished that one day I'm gonna be so far away from here, even though deep down I didn't believe it. There was no way for me to be able to be anywhere else or become anyone or have any sort of future when I was in Iran. So I was always wondering why my family was so dysfunctional. Then I remembered that my dad telling us stories about how our grandpa treated him when he was growing up, and how my older brother was telling us that he got beat up by my uncle as a trainee in the same sweatshop factory when he was growing up. And I was reading a quote online that it hit me and it resonated with me. And the quote says that a generational trauma is like a wildfire that rolls down the hill and burns everything in its path until one brave soul says, "Not on my watch." So, one of the good things that happened, my dad went out of our life early on. And that's a whole another story that I'm not gonna get into. But before he disappeared, he left us with a chunky amount of debt. So we had to pay it back. So me and my brother had to enslave us even more. And we were already working 24/7. So we were like going home once a week to eat a little bit of nicer food, like chicken with rice, and take shower once a week. So fast forward, years passed by. We're still struggling, trying to come up with a plan to get out of Iran, until one day I got caught by immigration and I was deported to Afghanistan. I was probably 14 or 15 years old. It was back in 2012, if I'm not wrong. That was one of the worst things that could happen to me, and it was the best thing that could happen to me. That's where the hard part began in my life. I was stuck in Afghanistan, and I found my relatives from my mom's side, and I asked for advice on how to get out of Afghanistan. I already had ideas of where I wanted to end up, somewhere in Australia or somewhere in Europe, but it was pretty much impossible with the amount of money that I had, and with the amount of support that I had, which was pretty much zero. And I wasn't really looking for much of advice from them. I was looking for a company, and their son said, "Oh, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with you, and we're gonna get to Australia." So I was pretty much like a Frodo. I was looking for a Sam for the journey ahead. So few days before leaving Afghanistan, the guy who wanted to go with me, he quit. He said, "You know what? It's too dangerous, man. I can't go with you." So right before I leave Afghanistan, the guy who was gonna go with me, he quit. So now I'm a Frodo facing Sauron or whatever it's called in the movie, and I have to face it alone. Imagine Frodo with no Sam. So that was me, pretty much, and with what I was about to face. And so I had no choice but to leave Afghanistan by myself. So I had to go to Pakistan by myself, and I was there for about 2 weeks, but it was like 2 years in hell. I was able to get out of Pakistan alive, and oh, hey Ruby, it's my cat Ruby. So yeah, I was able to what you want? Spray on my lap. Okay. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, yeah. I was able to get out of Pakistan alive. So we landed in Thailand. I landed in Thailand. There was no we at the time, and then I found the smuggler. We were in a room for a couple of days, and then we were able to move to Malaysia after there through some airplanes and jungles and stuff like that. We landed in Kuala Lumpur. I was able to find some immigrants and some old a relative of mine, and we were able to join forces and found another smuggler to get us to from Malaysia to Indonesia. And I almost like got drowned at the shore of Indonesia when we were getting off the boats. It was at the night time, and we almost got caught by immigration cops at the shore of Malaysia. That was a whole another story that goes into that, but I can't get into the details. I'm trying to get to the end of the story. So we finally got to Indonesia. It took us a couple of more days of going from city to city, jungle to jungle, and we finally got to Jakarta. At this point, we had no sleeps after a couple of days. We barely ate anything, but somebody in the group that we were in, they told us that we need to go to UN, United Nation, and we had to apply as an asylum seeker and get some sort of card or refugee card from them, just in case something goes wrong. So few weeks later, we were planning to go to Christmas Island, which is an island that's one of the territory of Australia. So when immigrants get to that island, it's game over. You're saved. You get to be accepted as a refugee, and you get to move on with life, and life is good and butterfly and all that. But right before we were about to go to Australia, Australia announced that they are not going to accept any more refugees. And they said anybody who comes to Christmas Island, we are going to send them back or deport them or send them to Papua New Guinea. And the ones that get drowned in the international water, they are not responsible for them. So we were just there, pretty much stuck. And I didn't want to risk it to go there, possibly get drowned like so many people that got drowned in those international waters. And the ones that made it to Christmas Island didn't believe Australia. They got caught, deported, or they got sent to Papua New Guinea, which meant they were either had to deport themselves out of Papua New Guinea or just stay there until the UN deal with those refugees. And I still know people that are still in Papua New Guinea, which is very unfortunate after all these years. It's been 10 plus years. Anyway, back to the story. So my last hope was UN. So I waited about 7 months until they called me. And in those 7 months, I almost died multiple times. I got pneumonia for 2 months. I got something called a scabies. It's not fun. Like, you cannot sleep when you have a scabies. And I got hit with a dengue or dengue mosquito. It's a mosquito that can kill you. And in those 7 months that I was waiting, and I was dealing with all these different diseases, I couldn't go to doctor because of multiple problems. First of all, I didn't speak their language or any English. And even if I did, I didn't have any money to go to doctor. So I just had to toughen up and let my body build up immune system for all those problems that I was facing. And eventually I healed, but it was I was miserable. I just wanted to die already. And one of those nights that I couldn't sleep because I was so sick. When you have a scabies, it won't let you sleep. And I'm at this point thinking that hope is a monster and I am his toy. And I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna die here. That was going through my head. But then I remember that was my whole goal from the very beginning. I was like, I'm either gonna make it or I'm gonna die trying. So because of that, I was going through the pain and the suffering, thinking I'm gonna make it or I'm gonna die trying. So it's okay. Either way, I'm gonna win. So because the reason why I knew there was a high chance of getting killed or dying was because when I was in Afghanistan, I heard all these news of people that I knew that they went towards Australia, that they got drowned, they got kidnapped by smugglers, or they just got disappeared, meaning they didn't make it. So I already committed my mind that no matter what happens, I'm not gonna give up. And I was at that moment. So anyway, they called me. I went to the UN and I did the interview. And 5 days later, they called me and they said, "We have your result. Come to UN." And when I went to the UN, I was extremely nervous. I was like, why did they call me so quickly? Because usually, when you had your UN interview, you had to wait a couple of months or a couple of years to get an answer from United Nations. I got mine in 5 days. So as soon as I grabbed that card that was supposed to have my result, so I touched it, I was like, as soon as I touched it, I knew the good news, because I was like, there's a card in it. That meant there's a refugee card in it, and I was accepted as a UN refugee. And I was no longer asylum seeker. So the story of me getting interviewed and getting accepted in 5 days was spread throughout all the refugees and all the immigrants in the city that we were staying at. So all the immigrants that who knew our location, that spoke my language, they came to me like I was some sort of prophet, and I was helping all these people to fixing their cases, aka stories, to right before they get interviewed. So I helped tons of people to fix their stories, articulate whatever is going on in their life, and be able to technically sell themselves that they are real refugee and they need saving. And I help all those people, and almost pretty much everybody that I knew that I helped got accepted as a refugee. And that was a extremely big deal to get accepted as a refugee. So after the interview, I didn't hear anything for 4 months. What's up, Ruby? What you want? You're gonna get you a couple of minutes. You'll be fine. Let me finish this. Okay, there's a back to the story where I was. Okay, yeah. So yeah, about 4 months later, they called me and they said, "Come for the interview. We are going to send you to Australia." And I was beyond joy. I was so happy. I was like, "Let's go! Finally, I'm gonna taste that sweet, sweet freedom that I was always dream of when I was a kid." So I went there. I did the interview, and nothing happened. 4 months passed by after that interview, and they called me. They said, "Australia has rejected you, and we are going to do something else." My heart just dropped. I was like, now what? Fortunately, they said, "Oh, we are going to send your case to US. Are you okay with that?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely. Send it to US, Canada, wherever. And do I need to come, sign anything, get another interview?" They said, "No, we're gonna call you whenever we need you." And that's how I was informed that I'm gonna get interviewed for going to US. So 11 months passed by. 11 dreadful months passed by. Didn't really hear anything back from them. And in this 11 months, I had multiple crazy things happen. We went to Jakarta, which is the capital city. I got into a bike accident, almost got killed. And 2-3 months after that, we got caught by immigration cops in Jakarta. So they came to our apartment. They arrest all the immigrants, and all they wanted was money. Like, we weren't doing anything wrong. They just wanted money. So they took us, the ones that paid them money, they released them. We didn't have money, and even if we did, we didn't want to pay them any money. It was like 25 of us that they kept. So they moved us to the jail, to the immigration jail. And after a couple of weeks of realizing nobody's coming to save us, not UN, not IOM, like none of those our organization care or want to save us, we planned to escape the prison. And after a week or so, the plan worked, and we ended up escaping the prison at night. It was a crazy event. We're just running barefoot when we got out of the jail. The good thing was it was in the middle of the city, so we were able to get a taxi and go disappear for a couple of days. And a few months passed by. Like, at this point, I'm so scared. I just don't want to leave, go anywhere, or do anything. And I'm getting a little bit depressed. And I'm like, when they gonna call me? So a few months after that whole getting out of prison break incident, I finally got a call, and it was in the most unexpected way. It was like on January 7th of 2015. I woke up at 11 a.m. from a call that meant everything. The ringing was coming from a dedicated phone that I was always holding on close to myself, and it was never low on battery, and it was never on silent. It was one of those like a small Nokia phone, and it was like black and white. It didn't have anything else. It was just specifically just for UN, because if you miss the call from UN, it meant that you can't just call them back and be like, hey, what's up? Yeah, you missed the call, you're screwed technically. So most immigrants over there, they had a second phone specifically linked to their UN case. So anyway, so I said hello. So I pick up the phone. I was expecting a good news, but it was even a better news. I still remember the conversation like it was yesterday. So I pick up the phone and this guy said, hey, are you Ali? And I said, yes. And he said, where are you and what are you doing? And I was like, where are you? I asked rudely. And I immediately realized, wait, that doesn't make sense. And I said, who are you? And he said, oh, sorry, my name is Ahmad. I'm from IOM. IOM stands for International Organization of Migration. And the moment he said that, I was overjoyed with happiness. It felt like the time has stopped. So it felt like I just won a Olympic gold medal for all the years of pain and misery and suffering and stress of being a refugee from country to country to country. So before he started saying why he is calling me, I already knew that it's done. I'm going to America. And I'm so emotional at that moment, and I'm thinking, oh man, I grew up in Iran extremely poor, getting bullied and harassed every single day. So I pretty much grew up in a different sweatshop factories from the age of like 7-8 years old until I was a teenager, and I got deported inevitably to Afghanistan. And I'm thinking that this is the best moment of my life so far. Then he finished by saying that, hey, you have a flight tonight at 7:30. And I was like, and he said, can you make it? And I said, yes. And he hung up. And I'm freaking out at this moment. So I immediately went and woke up my roommates, and I said, hey, I told him the good news. And he said, and he was freaking out with me. So he was excited, happy for me too. We went to the mall, bought bunch of stuff, bought a backpack, and got to the location on time, got to the airport on time, and I was extremely sick at that point. I was stomach sick, and I had this long flight. It was with like 3 layovers. It was like close to like 48 hours. It was Jakarta to Kuala Lumpur to Qatar to Chicago to Dallas. It was a long flight, and it was layovers after layovers, like hours of layovers. So I finally landed here in January of 2015, and I felt like I was on the top of the mountain. Everyone told me it was impossible to climb, and I finally had hope for a better life. So I always told myself that there was light at the end of the tunnel. From the moment I wanted to escape the slavery until I made it here, it was a 10-year journey. But the impossible dream became true with the power of imagination and blind faith, which I didn't know about growing up. There was no 10 steps YouTube video on how to get out of slavery and poverty and being a refugee, or any access to spiritual books. But deep down, I knew if I kept dreaming about it and take the risk and the leap of faith, that I would either make it or die trying. And thank God I made it. So last but not least, I shared my life story because some people along the way inspired me to change my reality and gave me a glimpse of hope that things will get better at the end if I change from within. If you only had to take one lesson from my story, remember that reality is negotiable with a blind and unwavering faith. I have more life lessons and life stories to share, and people always tell me to that I need to write a book about all those crazy stories that I went through, because every time I share it with somebody, like a friend of mine or a colleague, they always tell me that they are inspired, that they are motivated to change their life. So I figured, why not share it with you guys on YouTube? And that's all I have for today. Thank you for your time and attention. See you in the next one.